Okay, so our next talk is Adam Skotnicky with a presentation titled Taikun, DevOps at your service. I will leave it up to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I will be following up on the presentation previous a little bit. That was about technical depth, and I will be talking about this from the people perspective a little bit, and how to replace some processes which could be automated with some other tooling, right? So it's a never-ending story. So a little bit about me, to give you context what I'm talking about, and that I know at least a little bit about what I'm talking about. I work with Kubernetes and in Kubernetes community for a really long time. This funky picture is from 2016 in the first KubeCon in London. Not first KubeCon globally, that was one before in US, so this was first one in EU. And at that time we already, with Kuba, we had presentation about how we use Kubernetes for smart cities, right? So two buzzwords together at that time. And my background is from data centers and private cloud. I started in 2010. In 2012, we started a company called TCP Cloud. We were building private clouds for enterprise companies, telcos, banks, and so on. We got bought by US company, and then we built even bigger clouds, right? So 6,000 nodes and so on. So this is my background a little bit in private clouds, public clouds, and tech, and with Kubernetes. By the way, that time, I was really interested in time in Kubernetes because it was pure cloud-native tool that time, which is not so much anymore. It's a really complex tooling now. But that time, that you didn't even have stateful sets, right? That time you had something called pet sets, like they were really new, and that was basically community name it pet sets just to mock people request to have static domains. So you can have all the time same domain name when the pod restarts, because that was not the rule before. So that was really interesting time in Kubernetes. But this is not what I want to talk about. So what I want to talk about is this. I call it the table, and what you see here, it's just average DevOps salary across seniority in average EU salary. So of course, it can be different country to country, but this is EU average. By the way, the year salary is what I used, the month, and salary day is calculated based on how many days, in fact, you can work, including your vacations and so on. So the salary day is, in fact, calculated a little bit. So what is important, what I want to say is that a lot of people focusing on one aspect of DevOps or tech, and that's what tooling you use and how to do it technically, and really often they forget about the cost of what they're doing. So the technical depth is really, really interesting one, because technical depth is really connected with people and how people reacted on the management layer, but also on the technical layer. One of the things is that often people do decisions based on internal opinion. Management layer is usually not, management people, it's not directly connected, and with the technical people, they do not deeply understand the impact, what is their decision in the end. So really often you see, and especially in a little bit bigger companies, that DevOps teams decided that they will do everything on their own. And that's basically what is the technical debt is started. Because when you start hacking Kubernetes, for example, you will decide that, okay, I will write my CRD, I will write my operator for something, or I will use the open source project, but I will change a little bit something somewhere because I am better than that. That's basically the where disaster in future will start, because you start creating two things. First, you have unique solution. Second is depending on you, right? So this is from people perspective what mostly DevOps people doesn't see at all. That you also have a cost. You are not you should be replaceable, and what you're doing, it's not about your know-how, but the value of whole solution you will provide in the end. And doesn't matter, in fact, if it's public or private cloud, or in fact what technologies you're using. It's not tied directly to Kubernetes. But Kubernetes is a big culprit because Kubernetes is a big platform and will allow you to do a lot of things. So what you can do about this, right? So first is to even realize that there is this aspect of what you're doing, that you should be part of solution which is long-standing, which is repeatable, which should be automated as much as possible, and it's not reliant on you. Some people like it, right? So they like to be the boss, or they like the feeling that everything's depending on them in secret and called in the night to fix stuff and so on. But that shouldn't be the goal. Goal should be that you are on the side, you are not the origin of the solution, you are managing the solution. That's I guess, the DevOps ultimate goal, to provide stable environment where application can run, because the ultimate value of what you're doing is that something will run on top of infrastructure, and it could be database, could be internal application, could be WordPress, could be scaled from single instance to millions of instances, doesn't matter, but DevOps goal is to run things, not to hack things. Most people like to hack because more senior you are, bigger chance is that you will create something custom, right? Because you already have the experience, you have the know-how, you will build something which is unique. And because you have, like 10 years ago, you gained some know-how and you built on that, you still have the know-how. So I still hear questions regarding, can I run database stateful applications on Kubernetes, right? And then this is that's why I used the slides from 2016, because then we have same questions, right? But they were answered with the pet sets back then, and of course there's more questions to that. But it's like really old question, and it's still here because someone get the know-how about you cannot run database on Kubernetes that time, and they're still keeping it. So, and that's why also when you are in public cloud or any provider, they pushing you forward because they're doing this for you. Right, because they're doing it for everyone. So you have centralized solution which moves, and you are forced to move too. Sometimes it's called bleeding edge, or sometimes it's just a way how to operate IT. But you need some tooling for it. And what I've seen in the past 10, 12 years regarding to private cloud builds, and small, big, doesn't matter the scale, there was still same issue. Every time same issue occurs. When you build something in the beginning, it usually stays in place and as is for a long time until someone came after 5 years and will do the re-architecture piece, because there is no other way to do it, right? So, and that's not the optimal thing. Usually best, at least in theory, best thing is to keep stuff somehow independent on you and moving forward, and you just, keeping the distance and keeping stuff running. And for that, we created a tool to do it, which is called Taikun. It's just really brief product pitch from my side. That's what we realized, and we built a team and company who is trying to flatten the DevOps layer, right? So flatten the amount of decision you can do, and it's connecting also two things together, and that's management and technical people together. So it's not just, in fact, about what version Kubernetes I will be running, or what security, OPA policies are applied. It's also about, self-service. Enable people to don't write you email when they want something to change, but you should be able to enable them to change, somehow in the environment. So that's what we do. But in fact, we will have workshop about this in 13:30 in workshop 2 room, and then we will have more time to show you and prove. And also 2 angles of it. Something yesterday someone called ClickOps, which is really good reference. So, you see there was a dashboard, right? Clicking things. That's not how it should be. It should be automated. And of course, UI is there for beginners or for people who like to start, or are coming to Kubernetes from other sides, from developers, for example, and they just want to have cluster running. But in fact, the ultimate goal, again, is to be independent, so integrate, automate, do the GitOps, GitOps way. In our case, what we enable is to basically create a whole environment at the moment you need it. So it's not there. It's not like two things that you're running environment. You have your Kubernetes somewhere which you keep in alive for years. It should be in a way that you are able to redeploy it often, right? So you can just remove it, create it again, move the workload from side to side. It shouldn't be so difficult, in fact, with today's tools. It's just about how to use them. So that's why we try this, to eliminate the layer. When us in 2016, my know-how started with Kubernetes and the moment where you need to build your own etcd cluster separately to run Kubernetes, right? So that's not needed anymore and shouldn't be needed anymore. You shouldn't hack your own etcd cluster. Everybody knows that. But this will move forward, right? So now we should be in stage where Kubernetes as a whole shouldn't be cared for. It should be just service somewhere. And, everybody is CNCF. We are also part of CNCF. We are a silver member. We certified every Kubernetes version we do. This is just to say that you can run anything you want, and it should work between EKS and AKS and public and private, and doesn't matter. And that should enable us to don't care about Kubernetes. That should be, in fact, the ultimate goal of tooling now. Don't care about Kubernetes. Just don't solve the issues of Kubernetes. Because there is a story, right? So I saw one of the biggest eShop in Czech Republic. There was LinkedIn post, and where someone from our engineering team announced that how happy they are that they fix as a first team globally Microsoft SQL bug when they scaled Microsoft SQL to, 1,000 cores or something like that, right? So maybe they found this bug first because nobody used my MS SQL on 1,000 cores or something like that. That could be the culprit, because sometimes you shouldn't push, you shouldn't push for something which is like unique or edge. Best thing how to use these tools is that if you spend 1 week and they work, that's a good thing. When you spend 3 months on it and they work, you spend, 3 months on something with the cost of you on something which somebody maybe already did, and maybe you don't using the right tool anyway. So that's the question you should ask yourself. Anytime when you start something new, I'm able in 1 week to make it work somehow reliably, and then maybe tune a little bit, some alerts or something. Or I don't need. Do I know enough that I can run it or not? Right. So because when you're hacking something really deep and for a long time, you make it unique again, because you will introduce your own bias into it. That's what we do inside Taikun too. Are we able to use, we would like to get rid of Elasticsearch, right? Why? Because it's Java and consumes lots of memory, so what's the replacement? So we use something else, didn't work in a week, then we tried timescale, worked in the week, so we use it. Then it didn't work again, so we just, segment it. We didn't hack it for performance, we just internally in our code say, okay, this tables and will be running in this segment, and this will be in this segment. And we spent, a few hours on it, and it can scale to thousands, or like in this case, millions of records without big issues, right? So that's what we want to talk about workshop. By the way, on workshop, we will be talking about two things in reality. First, it will start with the clicking. We will just click stuff. Then we will switch to GitOps. And then during the meantime, individually, we will discuss with you, use cases, where it could be used, where not. So you have some idea how do not care for Kubernetes, right? How do not care for basic infrastructure you want to run, and why you shouldn't. And that's my presentation. In fact, it's really short, so we can have coffee, after yesterday's beer. And maybe if you're interested in more, we can discuss, on the whole, some real use cases or some stories which I cannot say on the record, right? And we can discuss this in detail. Thank you, guys.